the shootings that happened took place actually in the only facility in that huge health center, community center, whatever you want to call it, where they treat developmentally disabled people and others, staff of around 600 total, took place in the only facility in that entire massive complex that rents out to outside groups, which leads many of us here, we've been sitting around talking about it, leads many of us here to think, well, then it probably involved somebody who was inside that outside group that had rented the place and somebody outside that group who didn't like them. Could even be something related to gang warfare. Before the bodies have even been moved from their final, at least final at this point, resting spot, the president is calling for more gun control. And it's almost a necessity that we fall back and mention that the only thing that prevents a good guy with a gun from carrying out what he wants to do, or a bad guy with a gun, is a good guy with a gun. But what risk do you run should something like that happen? And why do they always seem to pick places where they're pretty sure nobody's going to be armed? Well, the question or the answer to that is quite obvious. But what if somebody is armed? What rights do they have? How careful do they have to be? Edwin Walker is an attorney with Walker and Byington. They are located in Houston, Texas. He got all of his all of his law degrees at Texas at the University of Houston. He's a member of the State Bar of Texas. He's a frequent speaker on the use of force, and he comes with us now to share his knowledge in that area, as he has all across the country at various venues. Mr. Walker, thank you for being with us.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
This shooting, and I'm sure that you're not completely up to speed on it. Nobody is, because it keeps changing. But this incident that happened in San Bernardino, as you may have heard me say, is another incident that possibly could have been stopped or at least mitigated in some way by a good guy, present with a gun. What kind of risk does a person who actually has a gun take getting involved in something like that?
Well, like I said, thanks for having me. And I just want to say, I'm sure you've said it on your program, but certainly this is a tragedy that occurred. However, every single policy that the gun control advocates push for was in play here. It was in a pro-gun control state. They have very strict laws. They already have assault weapons bans. They already have magazine capacity bans. This was a gun-free zone, and yet this tragedy still occurred. And the thing about it is that what should have happened is that, of course, the response should be this clearly is a tragedy. What can be done to prevent it? Well, what can be done to prevent it is to create more sheepdogs instead of letting everybody just be sheep. Now, if somebody did have a firearm on them, of course, every state has different self-defense laws. However, in one aspect that self-defense laws are universal across all the states is that in the event a person is put in reasonable fear that they or someone else is in immediate danger of death or serious bodily injury from somebody, then they are justified then.
You're going to go to jail for the rest of your life for whatever reason. Would not criminals still have the guns?
Yes, because California, in fact, does have a law that says that if you murder somebody, you will go to prison for life. And so if they're not going to be dissuaded from murder by that law and by the fact that, California still has the death penalty, even though they don't, carry it out very often, and even though Charles Manson has been sitting on death row since 1972, California does have the death penalty, which is often called the ultimate punishment. And if an individual is not dissuaded by that from committing whatever evil act he intends, then no law is going to dissuade him. And all these, the only thing that these gun-free zone areas do is they set a trap to ensnare otherwise lawful, innocent individuals. And, the organization that I work for, that I do legal work for, Texas Law Shield, U.S. Law Shield, that was sort of the thing that this was set up, that's the sort of thing that this organization was created to do, was provide innocent, law-abiding people with the security knowing that if they ever do find themselves in an incident like this, where they've had to defend themselves against the mass shooter, where they've accidentally found themselves in a gun-free zone area, that they have legal representation to assist them in that, in getting them out of that situation.
We have the website for the organization that Mr. Walker works for and does a lot of work with. uslawshield.com is the website. We're going to get that up on our Facebook page at facebook.com/thepatriotdetroit, so you can get more information on what they do there and some of the things that you need to be aware of as a gun owner that you may not be aware of. I don't expect you to speculate on this one, but I'm going to speculate myself. With that area being rented out by an outside group, these guys getting in and out of there so swiftly and so seemingly easily, although it wasn't easy, it simply was well planned probably. It kind of reeks to me of gang violence versus what some other people might be looking to call it now. I don't expect you to speculate, but would you be willing to agree with me that leans more that way than the other way toward terrorism?
Yes, well, obviously, in today's day and age, it's really hard to pinpoint somebody's motives until that person is actually caught, because it certainly looks like California is sort of well known for its gang violence. It could have been gangs. It's hard to believe, since it wasn't a financial target, that there was any sort of robbery motive or objective of some sort of financial gain. So clearly it could have been, an attack on a single individual or a single group of individuals. It could have been a terrorist act. It could have been gang violence. But the thing is what we have here is we have another, what is commonly known as a soft target. And it seems like the government should be concerning itself with making fewer soft targets, instead of their immediate reaction is, well, let's make more soft targets, and this simply wouldn't happen if we had more gun laws. Of course, ignoring the reality that, as you stated before, criminals don't obey gun laws. So who in fact are the gun laws helping in this situation?
We appreciate your time on such short notice, Edwin Walker, and we look forward to speaking to you again sometime in the near future. We want to we're going to use you as our springboard into sanity and reality in this thing as it develops, and I hope you don't mind coming on again.
Oh, no, yes, sir. I'm available anytime you'd like to speak.
Great. We really appreciate it. And that's Edwin Walker, Attorney Edwin Walker. And again, we'll have the link to his website at uslawshield.com up on our Facebook page so that you can access what they do at this great organization. And thanks again, Mr. Walker. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir, for having me.